Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online 2 episode review. This one's going to be for episode 18, The Forest House. The first episode of the Mother Rosario arc, or Absolute Sword arc, whatever you want to call it. Sleeping Nights arc, Yuki arc, there's a lot of ways, different things to call it, but I think most people call it the Mother Rosario arc. But yes, really good start to the arc. Just getting across that Asuna is going to be the main focus of this story. Kirito is there and they reference him because he's an important character, obviously, but Asuna is the focus. She's the one getting the kind of out of game focus in addition to her being focused on in game. They're setting up kind of an upcoming battle between her and Zekken and establishing that Kirito's already fought this character Zekken. And that is just really interesting and I think much needed because Asuna is a really important character and she hasn't had the most attention in the past couple of arcs. But here we get a lot of that, including some of her kind of some just first real details on her relationship with her parents. Like, we haven't really got much of that at all. Little hints here and there just based on their reactions to other things, but it's nice to get it here. But before I get into Asuna and that sort of stuff, the kind of setting up of this arc I think is interesting in that they just established that there's a new update to the game that unlocks floors 20 to 30 basically, 21 to 31 or something like that. And this includes obviously the floor 22, which is where Kirito and Asuna had their house in original SAO Eincrad. And so when they hear about this, they become super intent on beating that floor as quickly as possible and making sure that they get that house that they had back again, because it was such an important part of their relationship in the game and they want to have that again. I thought that was a really, really good idea to bring this back, to just establish how important their relationship is and establish, I suppose, how important those episodes were, kind of looking back on it now, that's important to Kirito, Asuna, and Yui. And just getting to see a little bit more of New Eincrad in ALO that, we in the Excalibur arc we had we saw basically some ALO kind of exclusive quests, just focusing on the ALO side of things. But now here we're focusing more on the Eincrad side of ALO, New Eincrad. And that's interesting that, they're releasing the floors step by step and not all at once, and we're just seeing them gradually go through it. So they've got it up to floor 20 basically, and then floor 21, 22 and so on are then unlocked as they get through them. And by the end of it we see that at the very least they're up to floor 24, but I don't really know exactly progress where they're at right now, but it'll be interesting to follow how high they get up in floors as the series progresses. But yeah, really, really cool to get to see a boss fight, kind of an Eincrad boss fight that we never saw in SAO. Very different, just in terms of it's this kind of stone golem monster, felt a little bit more mechanical, robotic, rather than the usual monsters that you get. And they didn't focus too heavily on the battle. We just saw a little bit of all of our main characters fight. Kirito was there, but mainly focusing on actually Asuna supporting and then analysing the battle and realising, I gotta make my move now, and she comes in at the right moment, and then her and Kirito switch and she finishes off the boss. Kind of just a nice thing to show that usually it's Kirito who finishes off the boss every time, but this time it was Asuna. Just get across that even more, that she's really important this arc. And very quickly they just head straight out by their house, and it's just a really nice moment. And then they don't linger on it too much. They're just basically kind of then cut forward like a couple of weeks later, and they all of them there are basically that's where they hang out, in the wooden cabin, and that's where they kind of do their homework together in the game to be together. Just a really nice way to establish this is their kind of new kind of meeting point in the game, this house that Kirito and Asuna have bought. But from there you kind of get some little bits of information about Asuna's past. you cut to, I suppose, earlier on in the episode, Aegil informing them about the new game. And at this point, you actually get Aegil's backstory, which I thought was really interesting. That he basically explains, I suppose, what they probably should have told us at some point during the Aincrad arc, SAO arc originally. Just this idea that he actually is a veteran MMO player, and he met his wife in game, and the two of them are really into this, and they could only get one nerve gear device when the game came out, and they played a game, and Aegil won, and that's why he's the one in Aincrad and not his wife. And they just talk about how he's glad that that ended up being the case, and it wasn't his wife that was trapped in the game, and that was his big desire to get out. That's why he joined the assault team. His main desire was to get out and see his wife again. That was just a small but good kind of backstory for him as a character, just establishing that he is one of the older characters, and that's what he was fighting for the entire time. So that was nice. And then you kind of get into Kirito explaining that he always wanted to get back and help his family, and then it obviously evolved into also wanting to meet Asuna outside of the game as well. But then we cut to Asuna, and you know, we know a little bit about her father from the ALO arc, and I'll talk more about that a little bit in a minute. But we've never really seen her mention her parents all that much. And they kind of go, it must have been the same for you with your parents as well. And she says, not really, you know, I have issues with my parents, you know, we don't have the best relationship. And she goes into detail about how that's why she had such trouble early on in the game, not knowing if she really, like, what she was fighting for, if she wanted to go on, because did she have anything to go back to in the real world, and was there anything for her in the virtual world? And it took meeting Kirito to kind of confirm to her that there is someone that she wanted to fight through the game for and kind of establish something with. And I quite like that as a kind of setup, that she has these issues with her parents, and you sort of know where they come from, and that obviously, like, we know that she comes from a kind of wealthy parents, that her father owns a really big corporation, and you can sort of see the way the relationship is, and that the father was basically willing to accept a marriage proposal to Asuna when she was unable to say yes or no to it in a game. Like, okay, they maybe they come from some special part of Japanese culture where that is somewhat acceptable, being from like a noble Japanese family or whatever. But the fact that he would agree to it when she is trapped in a game is preposterous, and it tells you something about the relationship. The arc ultimately is more about Asuna and her mother here, as we'll get into, but we don't really meet the mother in this episode. But it's just interesting that we see Lisbeth a lot, so talk to kind of Asuna as like the rich girl, and you're just like, oh, your life must be really tough being a rich girl and stuff like that. And Asuna kind of is just like, it is actually, because I have to do all these things that are weird to me and I don't actually like doing. Mainly this idea that her parents are constantly trying to kind of marry her off to another kind of noble, wealthy family, and kind of keep the power kind of the clans and stuff like that together or whatever. And obviously we know that she is in a really good relationship with Kirito, but that she's being forced to go to all these kind of meetings with her parents and kind of just be really nice to everyone, and just be that sort of kind of princess type character, who we know she's not really. And it's just interesting, like, that the pressure that she feels, that is a different world to her. Like, she feels more at home in the virtual world than she does in real life, unless she's with her friends. Her home life is this completely different thing that she doesn't feel comfortable with at all, which is interesting, and we're obviously going to get it explored over the course of this arc, which is very interesting. That, you know, we had little bits and pieces of Asuna's development in the Aincrad arc, little bits in the ALO arc, but here we're finally going to get like really heavy focus on her, and I definitely appreciate that. And just these little things, like the fact that she isn't up on all the information in the game because she was away for a while in a place where there was no internet and she couldn't play the game. Um, but yeah, what else is there? Basically, then it's just the setup of Zeka and basically Yuki. Absolute sword, whatever you want to call the nickname of this character. And just establishing that she has this really cool, unique sword skill that she's going to give away to anyone who can beat her. And she's just been dueling everyone. They don't establish that she's a villain or anything like that. It's just a kind of fair competition thing, testing skills. So it's nothing really serious, but they just establish that, okay, basically most of Kirito's group have been beaten. Asuna obviously hasn't challenged yet because she's just kind of returned to the game after being away for a while. And then they kind of gradually reveal to you that, yeah, Kirito fought her as well. And Asuna's just like, oh, he won, of course, obviously. And then they say, no, he lost. And then you kind of get into it like, but he must not have been fighting at full force. And then Lisbeth's kind of like, pretty much he wasn't. And then, and then, Lifa, I just completely blanked on her name for a second there, but and then Lifa says that no, I think he was going full force, but there was this moment where something weird happened and the duel kind of ended sort of weirdly. So this is kind of one of those things where like I'm kind of conflicted on what exactly the show is trying to do here. They're kind of at the same time trying to establish that Yuki is potentially better than Kirito in terms of their fighting abilities, but at the same time they're trying to put a few little kind of barriers up, excuses up for like, oh no, these are reasons why Kirito is still actually the best, because one, he is never going to ever fight at full force because he only does that when the game suddenly becomes real. That there's only been a couple of times when he's actually fought at full force, and he can't, just because of the nature of his character, he can't just turn that on at will. That there is another level that he can go to when required, but it's not something he can do unless he's severely pushed. And then they obviously establish that there's something kind of like, oh, there was something that happened. Kirito said something to her just before the duel ended, and it ended in that way. So they do all these things to try and like save Kirito from the loss, but at the same time they kind of go like, but no, she was really good. She has a super sword skill, and then there's some stuff later on as we get through the arc that kind of further does that. So yeah, I'm always kind of back and forth on how I feel about this. I think they just about do enough to kind of go like, we're never going to really know which one of them was better because Kirito couldn't ever properly fight her full force and stuff like that. So did they even establish that he didn't use his proper dual wielding skill, being able to chain the source skills together like we saw in the Excalibur arc? I think they established that he didn't even use Excalibur in the fight as well. So there's that too. There's all these things that kind of come from like, but wait, there's like 12 asterisks besides Kirito's loss in this one duel. But I think it's definitely the more plot-focused reason, which we'll get into, and that's that he kind of, being the expert that he is at these games, he realized that, I'm really high level in the game and can be so good because I have super high reaction times. She basically, the way she fights feels like a native player of the game, that she spends more time here than in the real world, and so she's on a kind of similar level. Like Kirito's there because of kind of talent, she's there just because kind of primarily just due to she spends most of her time here, and this has become her effectively. So I'll get into more into that when they properly explain it, but there's a lot of interesting details that come up, and they just establish that Asuna is becoming more and more interested in this whole thing. They still haven't revealed to her that it's a girl, so that's going to be a little bit of a kind of surprise to kind of Asuna, who has this vision of this kind of really big guy, kind of like General Eugene, but not quite him. Interesting that they bring him up again, that he has before this 11-hit sword skill, he has the kind of 8-hit sword skill that everyone else wants. So interesting that they give even a little bit of information about him more than we've got already. But they established that Asuna's pretty much going to fight her next, and we're going to see how everything plays out from there. But definitely a good first episode, I think, of the arc, establishing Asuna's going to be the focus here, and it's not just that, oh, Kirito's taking a back seat. He's there, and we're kind of setting up stuff kind of around him. But Asuna's the focus because we want to explore something with her in game and out of game. We're going to explore her relationship with her parents and stuff like that, as well as dealing with her relationship with this Zekin character, Yuki, as we will quickly realize. And I think that's just really interesting how they've done that. That, you know, they've made this basically. They've managed to really turn around ALO from being this very different thing to Aincrad to now suddenly making it like, oh, I don't really care anymore. Like, Aincrad is there when they're battling in Aincrad, which most of this arc is going to be in. It's basically the same game as SAO, just the character designs are a bit different. They have elf ears. That's about all that's really different. And I think that's a really big success that they can now just have this world here that everyone can buy into, and it's basically SAO but better. And yeah, just really cool stuff that they're setting up here. It's one of those kind of interesting arcs that I've already obviously seen it in the sub, and I'm watching it for the dub for the first time here, doing these reviews, but it definitely has a similar feel to, I suppose, the Phantom Bullet arc, in that it's a kind of smaller story in the grand scheme of like the amount of source material that this story actually is in the novels. And I can definitely sense that they're basically every single scene from the books is going into this show, that once again it's a lot of kind of longer scenes, and I definitely appreciate that. So really amazing start to this Mother Sario arc. So yeah, I'll hopefully get one or two more reviews out during the week for the next 2 episodes or so, but we'll see how things go. But yeah, that's been the review. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the review and the episode. And thanks for watching the video, and bye.